I hear from people that they're upset, and I see it in the newspaper. Why do the Indians get all this? Why aren't we tax-free? Why can't we have a casino? You know, this is now that you guys are successful, they want to take it away. It's the same thing if in the 1800s, if an Indian family set up a beautiful farm and did all the things they were supposed to do, it was taken away. So it's a really, you know, it's just so disturbing to me. I don't know why this is perpetuated. I mean, I do know where it came from. I don't know why we consciously seem to perpetuate this idea about Indians that they shouldn't have.
20 miles east of San Diego, California, lies the Barona Indian Reservation. Here my family gathers every year to celebrate the great American holiday that is Thanksgiving, otherwise known as the beginning of the end for Native peoples. We don't gather to celebrate the Pilgrims surviving their first cold winter. We gather to express what we are thankful for. Right across the field from my godmother's house is the Barona Valley Ranch, a $250 million hotel and casino designed by the same people as the Mirage in Las Vegas. Money is definitely something to be grateful for, but is that all that the casino gives to the Kumeyaay? If that were all, wouldn't this be some sort of new welfare system? I had to find out what other gifts the casino brought, and of course, what it took away. I'm a Barona Kumeyaay. I lived on the res for 8 years, but my parents wanted my brother and I to get the best education possible, so it was off to the suburbs. Years later, my parents told me that because of the casino, I would be able to attend any college I could get into. NYU is my first and only choice. Who were the people who struggled through countless obstacles so that I would receive such great gifts? This is the story of my Kumeyaay family. My journey started out by interviewing my mom's generation. The 50s and 60s, for most Americans, was a time of square meals, penny loafers, and safe neighborhoods. But Native people are rarely considered most Americans.
You didn't have any sanitation, like toilet, didn't have no electricity, we didn't have carpet. Dirt poor means you got your clothes from the church and the boxes that somebody thought about bringing up for the Native American kids or Indian kids at that time.
Back then we had BB guns and we learned to hunt. Hunting is kind of strange because you got to know a bit about the animals. You hear that Indians are supposed to pray or something when they kill an animal. We just shot everything we could think of. You know, we didn't think nothing of it. So later that we saw that other people actually did do that. You know, they stopped and paused a little bit. But back then we were just cleaning out all the birds in the reservation. Just shot them all. You know, as many as we could.
We ran around with no shoes on forever. I must have had calluses on my feet because I can recall going through weeds and rumble, and every once in a while something would stick to my foot, but there must have been calluses on the bottom because I never wore shoes, and that was real cool. Now that I look back on it, you know. And one thing my mom didn't do at that time is like put pants on me, so I always wore dresses, and my legs would get all scratched up from the bushes because we always used to run into the mountains and things like that, and there'd be bushes and junk, and I'd come home all full of scratches and stuff, and she'd wipe me down and get Jergens lotion and put it on my legs, and it would take away, it would sting, but it would take away the cut feeling and stuff. One
of the biggest things the kids used to do when we were growing up was hunt rabbits. That was one of our main meals, and hunt deer. That was another source of meat. And I can remember the best food we used to get was the rabbit, throwing in some pepper and flour batter and some potatoes and tortillas. Man, that was a meal like a steak and lobster nowadays, or compared to like that or a ribeye or a big porterhouse steak. That was our steak in them days.
Things got away from her, so she always poured a lot of onions on the food so that it would take away from the flavor of the spoiled. But I remember when she would cook it, you could always tell that the meat was a little bit past. It would get that strong smell, and I'd say, "Ew, I don't want to eat that." She goes, "Oh, we'll put a few onions in it, you'll never notice it." Yeah, it always had a little distinct taste, but if my mom said it was okay, then I could eat it.
Growing up in a town, a country town, because Lakeside is a lot of cowboys, so going to school with cowboys was kind of hard. Lakeside had its own chapter of the Ku Klux Klan, so you had to be a little afraid, and you really kind of had to know your place. And I remember me and my sister one time, we went to the local laundromat to wash our clothes. We didn't have a washer and dryer here at home, so we'd have to take it into Lakeside, which is about 8 miles away and that's where the school was at also. And two of the boys, now we must have been, you know, I must have been about 12, she might have been about 15. You know, they just harassed us horribly about the black Angus cow gets so much a pound, and I mean, you know, it was, I don't know where they were going with this, but you know, they were trying to tell us how, you know, how they were so much better than we were.
Yeah, I went to Linda Park. I went to a grade called Pre-First. And I looked in the door when I first walked. I think my mother was with me. And I looked, and one of the white kids had cut pants on. Because in the movies and on TV, you'd see white kids with cut pants on. I always thought about color too, that white people could easily ditch class because they all look alike and the teacher wouldn't know they were gone. But of course, I was the Indian, I looked different. If I ditched class, they'd know right away that the Indian was gone. But I thought the white people were very lucky because they could ditch class. They all looked alike, you know, they could ditch class with no trouble. So going to school and being exposed for the first time other than TV was, it makes you feel that, it makes you know that you're different. And you went to the cafeteria, they had all these strange foods that, you know, I don't eat. Salad, I remember salad. One teacher forced me to eat salad one time. My eyes were tearing and everything. I was trying to eat this stuff. Oh, I could really stand it to eat it. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. So the food was different. Everything was different when you went. My first exposure was a big contrast, a big change for me because I just didn't know stuff. Didn't know foods, you know, didn't know what they were doing. And, yeah, very, very odd. I remember that. You felt very much apart.
It seemed like we didn't want to keep up with the Joneses like they do off the reservations, you know, buying nicer cars or, you know, trying to, you know, make your landscaping. What landscaping could we have with cows walking around? And so that's when I kind of knew there was a little difference. When I go to my friend's house, you know, my friend's house is down in Alpine, you know, they had a pool or, you know, they always had like this dog they took care of that they thought was like a member of the family. They always had this nice lawn and, you know, shiny cars and all that. And you know, new nice electronics. When I come home, you know, I slept on a futon bed for a long time, and